All right. Welcome to the Neil Gen.G versus Sentinels breakdown from the group stage of VCG Champions Seoul, which started yesterday. I did watch this match live, and I'll just go ahead and let this pistol round play. Well, the beginning parts of it, while I kind of outlined a little bit what happened in this game and how Gen.G has absolutely obliterated Sentinels. I mean, it was not even close. This a 13-8, 13-7 scoreline may seem closer than it actually was, but I assure you, this was a Gen.G masterclass from start to finish. Now, the first thing I do want to talk about is a bit of the disconnect in Sentinels. Now, you notice this is a nice A hit from them, fast A on the pistol. Nothing too crazy about the call, but there's a couple key takeaways. The first one is that right there. Zekken was not having a very good day. And although the majority of it was not his fault, or him losing, let me rephrase that. Him losing a lot of his duels was not the main reason for Sentinel's loss, but Haven definitely could have been closer, although I still think Gen.G would have won. The second problem is what you're looking at right now on this paused screen, with Meteor taking this 1v1 against Zelsis. Now, Sentinels usually is a very tight team, right? They have good coordination, they work together, their synergy has always been a strong suit. Objectively, when you look at the firepower of this team, aside from Tens and Zekken, I mean, sure, John and Sassy can have their moments, and Zelsis has a clutch or two, but it's not a team like Gen.G, where you look at this whole roster, and every single one of these players has the ability to get multi-kills in situations they should not be getting them. And Meteor definitely showed that here. But also, I do want to point out that Zelsis is kind of swinging backside alone while his two teammates are short and long. And so he dies for that. And then this 1v2 is just, I mean, really sloppy, honestly. I'll just let it speak for itself. You can kind of figure out what's going on. Sassy commits to the fight after seeing he's off. And then Tens is kind of just misplaying it a little bit, trying to get the kill. So this pistol round is kind of a symbol of how this map kind of went. Obviously, Sentinels had some good rounds because they are Sentinels. You don't get to champions by being a completely horrible team. But they were definitely disconnected. And I think this pistol round loss kind of scared Sentinels into losing their confidence a little bit, because this was one of the few fast rounds in this entire map. And I would have liked to see Sentinels deviate a little bit more from their game plan. Now, the anti-eco came and went without much of note happening. The only notable thing is that Zelsis farmed a few altars, but that's about it. The first thing I want to highlight going to this anti-bonus is how little Sentinels was able to utilize the entirety of A. Lakia on defense side controlled a major part of the map here, literally by himself. Now, this is kind of a bonus play for Texture to walk down. Don't pay attention to that too much. This was actually, in my opinion, one of the better rounds that Sentinels had this whole half. There was some nice scaling. They did a fast garage hit. In general, I think their fast hits worked a lot better. Now, Meteor does get 2 because he's Meteor, and as I said, everyone on Gen.G is capable of popping off like that. But I just kind of wanted to show this round as a solid basis of what Sentinels could do on this side. Their attack was riddled with problems. Namely, I think the biggest thing was their lack of ability to control A. Not just short, but the entirety of this area. And letting Lakia just stay there and hold A literally by himself. But, all in all, it was a pretty good C split. Good scaling, good coordination. This is the Sentinels team play that I kind of expected going into this match. Now, off the back of a decent B push with some good trading and scaling, Sentinels were able to win the 4th round and put Gen.G on an eco. Usually, I just not bother showing ecos, but in particular, I want to highlight almost how scared Sentinels is playing for this whole round, despite the fact that they clearly have the gun advantage. See, Zelsis here is going to commit a breach ult into C, even after killing the C anchor. And notice, again, what I pointed out, the problems with Sentinel's default. You can see Sentinels kind of wanted to start rotating out, but they had no idea what was going on in A because no one has been there the whole round. Cypher Utility has only held this flank, which means there's a lot of deep angles, such as the one Lakia is sitting in right now, that they need to clear if they want to re-hit A. And the camera does give them some B control, but someone could easily be posted like here, or like gotten past already here, timing the camera, and they wouldn't have known. Which means it's very, very obvious to Gen.G that Sentinels is going to come back C. And in fact, that's what they end up doing here with the breach ult. And as you just kind of let things go, I also want to highlight almost how poor the scaling was with this breach ult. Now, production is going to highlight here this alert from John Cutie. Maybe trying to poke and prod on his own to see if they can get any A control. But at this point, it's too late into the round because they've given up too much space. And so Lakia, who bought a shotgun and sitting in sewer, just gets his one for free. And after the Lurker's dead, Sentinels knows they have to commit C now. Notice Texture has no more knives anymore. You might have saw him with them at the beginning of this clip. And despite the fact he gets breach ulted, aftershocked, full flashed, and I believe he also gets he gets flashed a second time and darted, and still manages to get 2 on this scaling. And honestly, if he wins that against Celsius, that's probably the round, because TenZ is on immense pressure to plant. So although Sentinels converted their anti-eco, they were quite discoordinated, indecisive, almost a bit scared in the way that they've started to play.
Tracked by Sentinels now, got a sight set towards it. The drone pitches ahead of this though, the ball, and he misses the flick. Ah, there's a dash into his face. How the hell do you avoid this? You don't! It's all supplemented. TP up into heaven. TenZ is there for the backstab just in case, but Sassy was the one to clean it all up. And now you're just looking at a save.
That's so lovely. I mean,
now this round is Sentinel's first attempt at taking some sort of A control, and you'll notice that Gen.G, with their kind of unique Viper wall that they pioneered towards this A side that runs through lobby like this, are going to try and take some control, but Sentinels ends up getting the better of it. TenZ gets the opener, and they do kind of have A control for the start of the round, but you'll see as the round plays out, there's going to be some problems here. Now, notice this TP. TenZ was doing this TP a lot, perhaps as their anti-strat of the protocol upon seeing this Viper wall already. He's just going to TP past it. He did that a lot in this half. Karon's going to try his best to equalize numbers in the short off angle. He gets one, but he gets traded, and so it becomes a 3-on-4. Which soon becomes a 3-on-3. And the round kind of gets odd. Now, even though they've just traded back, and Lakia pops his Seekers, they decide to leave no one A to hold the A space for them. I understand there's a Seekers, so perhaps they might have wanted to, like, you know, respect it. But again, I think Sentinels have been giving it too much respect to Gen.G utility in this round. And in particular, this window gap that Meteor finds a timing through to kill TenZ as he's walking out of A definitely should have been calmed. So again, back to the indecision / hesitation and miscommunication. Now, since the Viper's dead, they have a pretty easy time getting into C. And a very strange Killjoy ult from Meteor right here prompts a very, very weird reaction into B, or into C-Link, I should say. This Killjoy, usually the Killjoy ult is placed around here to push them out of the C site and have them go play long, and it ends up being a spam post plant. But Gen.G don't want to do that because they don't have smokes, and so they can't kind of stick the defuse and counter spam back. So instead, they choose to do this to deny Sentinels from playing long and force them to either stay in the site or get out or contest the Killjoy ult, which is very far away, which they probably can't contest. So the reaction is that Sentinels wants to push CT like this. You can see Sassy's in the middle of droning. Zekin's about to peek this. They can't stay in sight because they just get kind of owned by the retake utility. Notice Texture still has a dash and there's still a flash for Lakia. Smoke dash plus flash, he's definitely good for one with that. And so a good call to disrupt the retake. In general, I think disrupting retakes was probably a big point in Sentinel's game plan. Unfortunately, this is the beginning of bad things for Zekin, because he loses perhaps the most important 1v1 of the whole half. Now, let's rewind that a second. On 9 times out of 10, Zekin would have won that. Full flash Texture, not full flash, he's half flashed. But Zekin just whiffs crouch spraying and Texture takes him down. Zekken did not do very well in this map, and normally I praise Zekken for being a very good player. He's often good for these, takes his necessary timings, and he's very intelligent and knows when to get out. But unfortunately, he loses that, and just a nice team play on the Gen.G retake to close out the round. Now, off their success on the B fight in the previous round, Sentinels just decides to run the same thing again. However, as I said, Gen.G remembered how their post-plant or their retake protocol was dealt with, and so watch the retake timing here. They delay it ever so slightly. Lucky does get a free spam kill, which definitely helps, but look at the delayed timing. They don't do it off the tap, but instead slightly after, and so they actually disrupted Sentinels' post-plant protocol, or the play that they tried to make, which was off the plant, they'd have breach ult, and so they try to breach ult Link, and give Zekken an opportunity to take a fight. You'll see the breach ult going out right there. Unfortunately, the flood retake began just as that was happening, and so Zekken takes a bullet to the back of his head before he even has a chance to do anything. And after that, Zelsis is surrounded, and the round's over. This is how fast teams need to adapt at the highest level. Gen.G one round, their fast flood retake gets denied, and so they immediately adapt to it. Gen.G was doing this a lot better than Sentinels. When Sentinels was losing rounds, they did not adapt, especially on the second map, which we'll get to in a while, and on their defensive half. I do want to draw attention to how poorly Sentinels was contesting A throughout this whole half. I've already spoken about it before, in that they had no A control and they allowed 1 or 2 people, mostly just one guy, to stay there and hold the entirety of A. In fact, if we rewind this a second here, you'll see it. John decides to throw a camera into short, right? Faking as if he's trying to do some lurk pressure, and he has a cage. You'll see it on the minimap just there, that he has been popped and disappears. But the dog instantly re-clears him, and John makes no attempt to try and take back that space. The A lurk has been completely nullified, and now Texture can just sit on this A line for free, while the rest of the team rotates into B. In general, they were defaulting 4-1 a lot, and John on the Cypher was not doing very well in holding his space and being a late round lurk or like a backstabber. Now, Charon right here does just spray down 2 and literally win the round on his own, forcing a save from Saucy, but still, the 4-1 defaults that happened a lot from Sentinels in this game were not very good. This is another round where we see the Sentinels default being very, very easily read by Gen.G. Remember, we were talking about the 4-1 has been really, really obvious. If you see the Cypher, they're not hitting that site. And it continues again as they kind of keep going here. The dog sees John, and if it didn't from the minimap, then Texture will definitely see him now. Meteor dies there, but this trade happens quite quickly, so we're left in a 4v4 instantaneously. And if we pause here in this moment of the round, notice the Seekers have cleared all of A. If the game plan read of the Cypher never being the site that they hit wasn't already obvious, the Seekers confirm it is not A. They cannot be A. Munchkin's been holding this line basically the whole round. The alarm bot has been broken. It's not B. Charon's in Garage right now. Cannot be Garage. He's one-weighted, he's holding it, and no one is coming through. And Charon can hear all of the stomping right now. It is C. It is C. He's calling his team to rotate. And look at them. By the time that Sentinels get there, they have the Viper Orb up, and they have 2 people in the site. Now, although this exec is actually not bad from Sentinels, it also doesn't go, perfectly, because Lakia's flank does kind of get a bit overlooked. In the Chaos here, Zekken does manage to find one, but Lakia trades back, and so it's 2 for 2. Now, right here, Lakia's job is to buy time. He needs to let Texture kind of make some space, work a play. He tries to go for something here. Unfortunately, I'd argue it's a bit misplayed from Lakia, and he leaves Texture on 1 HP in a 1v2. Notice he's 1 HP. Now, I remember actually seeing after the game, there's a post-match interview, and Saucy said Texture's health was calmed in this moment, which makes it even more inexcusable that he's able to pull off something like this.
Enough with the offset of the movement. Lakia will be dropped. Texture 3 HP.
30 seconds left.
Looking this way, that way, head on a swivel, doesn't know which way to look. It's an impossibility almost at this point, but at least the spike isn't down. It's the one thing we're looking for him, but the weaponry is not. plant from Zels is stuck, committed. Needs to be held out here. Weak players all around. It's all about this first shot that lands. Finally, needs a second one. Dash now active. Doesn't know where he is, and it's wrapped all the way round. Texture! You absolute animal!
Now, if the earlier Sentinels defaults were bad, this might be the worst example of a poor default. Remember before where I said the Cypher's the lone lurker, they run 4-1s a lot? And if they see the pack, that's usually where the pack ends up hitting. Now watch. Gen.G start this round actually with a heavy B read. They think it's going to be a fast B hit off maybe Sentinels potentially seeing that they could find some timings in the Flood retake. And so there's one guy on A right now. It's just Charon. And as we run this forward, let's take a look. What happens here? Oh, Sova Recon has been thrown into short. So what does Munchkin call? He calls 4 people stack the site. Now, the reason why, again, the Cypher is always the lurker. They've seen the Sova towards A. This is not a cross-map recon he can throw. He knows the Sova has to be A. And he knows that Sentinels have always been hitting with the pack. They've never really rotated off. So, he knows it's going to be an A hit this round. And as we keep going here, maybe we can speed it up a little bit. Notice how rooted Gen.G is here. They don't move. I'm sure they just heard the spike drop here. So Charon smokes it. He's holding short. There's still 4A. Munchkin goes back to check B. He doesn't see anything. Now look at what happens in Garage. Zelsis is about to flash for John to break the turret. Alright? Now normally, when something like this happens, rotates do kind of have to get pulled. After all, they don't know who's in Garage right now. Meteor doesn't hear anything, but there's nothing stopping a Garage lurker from kind of just walking in like that and taking free space, and he's just playing committed on C. So Charon decides to get some info on A with his Omen ult. And as you see, after he smokes Garage, watch the Omen ult. And I'm not sure if you caught a glimpse just there, but who did he see with this Omen ult? We slow it down. It's TenZ. He sees the Omen on A. It's not the Cypher lurking. And so, despite all of this Garage pressure that they've tried to put on Gen.G, they've left 4 people on A for 1 entire minute into this round. And I mean, Sentinels just gets put through the blender. There's literally nothing you can do when you're getting outread this hard. So we're going to switch sides here and go Gen.G's attack side and Sentinel's defense. And before anything starts, again, I just want to highlight the comp difference. This Viper, Omen, Sky comp was specifically made to counter this comp because of this A wall. This A wall, now normally on defense when you're playing this Breach Sova, what you'll have is your Breach will be standing right here in A link, and he'll be stunning like that, and then maybe you'll have a recon that scans all of lobby, and you can set your jet up or whoever it is on this line, and just hold that. And you leave one guy A, and you can overstack the rest of the map with 4 people. Now the problem with this Viper wall is that it literally nullifies all of the aggression, because someone can easily be playing around this Viper utility. Either they take a good timing into A, they hide in a corner like this where they can't be seen, hide from the Sova util. The Breach stun doesn't do much because you can't see anything. Or they can be hiding outside, and once the wall goes up, there's just a free lurk timing into short. And now obviously, by this point in Valorant's history, people know the Viper comp is played like this. It's not new information. However, knowing that though, that arguably makes Sentinel's defensive setup worse because they've chosen to stack 3 people on A. A single Viper wall is keeping 3 people on the A site at the start of the round. They moved off their Breach because the Breach has no impact here against this Viper wall, while the rest of Gen.G takes mid control. I also want to use this round to highlight very early on, remember this is the pistol, highlight very early on how different Gen.G and Sentinel's attack sides are. Already we're seeing a much more dynamic look is a 1-3-1. They have information, maybe not good information, but decent information. They have this control on A with Munchkin. They know no one's at least walked all the way down C, and the rest of them are going to go in B. And Gen.G are going to run a triple fake in this round. So different from what Sentinels were doing. Just very predictable. Sentinels were 4-1ing, hitting the site where they started initially a lot. And Gen.G are going to triple fake with the pack here. And, I mean, this just shows how outclassed Sentinels was in this matchup. Karon's going to tap the bomb. Going to draw rotates off of A. Remember, they started rooted 3 people A. And they only started rotating off once the bomb tapped. And off the bomb tap timing, what's going to happen? A double lurk is going to be activated. Munchkin's walking up A at the same time Meteor's walking up C. They're both trying to see information, and off of what each of these lurkers can get, the pack of 3 in mid will rotate off. Now, Zelsus makes a good read after the Cypher cam is broken, and he just kind of stuns Meteor. He gets killed. Okay. It's a 5-on-4, but look at Munchkin. They have 2 lurks on this map. They have not been 4-1ing. If Munchkin was here with them, like John QD, and how Sentinels played their default, Munchkin would not be able to make this call. But just watch the incredible lurk timings. Munchkin found a lot of these on his attack side. And John QD has absolutely no idea what's going on. He's calling his whole team to A. He gets the trade to take back the first blood. And now, it's basically impossible. Because the other strength of this Viper comp is these deep CT orbs. Because these CT orbs, normally, when you play retake on Haven, on A and C, you kind of use these CT smokes, usually thrown by an Omen or something, as kind of like staging areas for your retake. You can kind of sit in here, you know, just like 2 or 3 people, you get ready, your breach is ready to flash this and stun this whole line, and off of that you can just instantly pop out. But you can't do that with a Viper smoke because the decay will absolutely eat you alive, and as you kind of swing out, everyone's going to be 1 HP, so it doesn't even matter if they're blind. They can just spray or right click or something, and you're all going to die. And Gen.G play this Viper comp very strongly. They're going to have 1, and actually not even 1, 2 people in this CT smoke as it goes up while they're trying to prevent the retake. And there's absolutely nothing Sentinels can do to stop them. And so, I just want to show you, let's recap this round. Gen.G starts 1-3-1, much more spread than Sentinels is. They have decent info on all sides of the map. This Viper wall is causing big problems for Sentinels. Even though this Viper comp has been around for over a year now, I mean, they have no idea what's going on. 3 people A, no one's taking any deep info. And meanwhile, Munchkin can just call an absolute masterclass. He fakes so much pressure, draws so many rotates, and gets his perfect lurk timing into A, killing John. And then they play a very disruptive post plant. They play in the smoke so they can stop the retake. And Sentinels couldn't do anything.
See if they make a go of it. Of course, not running a Killjoy. It's going to be gaps potentially there. We'll see if Sentinels are able to cover it.
Shadows traveling. Just to look at the other side of the map as well. Recon Dart finally thrown out 20 seconds into the round. Because if you throw it out early, the Viper wall is really disguising it. Zekan almost caught contact, and Munchkin's lurked his way up again. I'm not sure which one's even going to be the game changer here, A or C.
10's going for the peak as well as Barrels. Pointing out, trying to bait a shot out. There's no way. There's absolutely no way Munchkin can be blessed like this. Once more! He's working magic over towards the A site. We're watching a bloody repeat. Sentinels be lucky to get anything. Still, Caron drop towards the back. Texture! Phantom play! And after 4 beasts, A stolen away!
Alright, this round again, I need to highlight. Sentinels is playing very, very scared. They're hesitating. They almost make the correct read here. There's an Omen smoke coming in A, and they kind of recon outside of it to clear if there's anything else. Now the recon's already gone by the time that I've started this clip. And if they just put one guy to hold this A space, like maybe he could play in front of the Viper wall here, although that's quite risky, or Tens could play in this angle and watch the wall cross. I mean, that would be great. They just leave one guy A, and then they can just go overstack the rest of the map. That's how you play Haven. It's all about A lobby. A lobby is so, so important. Literally, this entire comp, the Breach Sova comp, was created to take A lobby control. This square is so important on Haven. And yet, despite the fact they almost make the correct defensive protocol, I don't know what's going on here. Sassy and Tens are just kind of scared, and they give Texture so much space to work this. Now, there's a very, very nice C split. There's a beautiful exec. This is a lineup orb that's being thrown into CT by Munchkin to give Texture the space to take this B fight, to walk through this smoke and fight. Splitting from CT, a garage CT C split. It's not something you see every day, but it's executed very well. Zekken and John just have no idea what they need to do. In fact, John even gets team stunned by Zelsis right there. Sassy tries his best with the Hunter's Fury, but the round's already over. And again, hesitation, doubt, lack of confidence even. That is the name of the game here for Sentinels, and they are just getting run over. A team like Gen.G will take these gaps, and they will run away with it. Now, after that round you just watched, Sentinels took a timeout, and they won the next one off great play from the Vibes Merchant himself. Celsius came up big with a 3K. Now, the problem is, he used his Breach ult for that. And it was a 4-on-2 retake, he wanted to secure it, but now there's a Viper's Pit online. It's not going to be used this round, and it's going to be used the next round. Now, I do want to highlight, Sentinels have kind of adapted their defensive setup a little bit. Things are looking better towards A. They have two people here. They're kind of trying to deny the Munchkin lurk now. He's getting hard anti-stratted. But now notice what happens in the next round, because Munchkin, knowing that they're watching for him now, he'll be able to make a really, really good call in the next round. But for the time being, Sentinels is going to do well. Zekken gets a nice first blood under Texture. Tens is watching for the lurk timing, and Munchkin finally decides to start walking up because he thinks it's his time. He calls his team back to A. Unfortunately, this Tens off angle is very good for watching the short lurk, and Saucy's got all of long. And Munchkin he just dies. And things are definitely looking better. They had a decent B line this round. They mid-info. They have watching for the A-lurk, and this 3v5, unfortunately, is not going to be winnable for Gen.G. So the start of something better for Sentinels, but unfortunately, it was too little too late. So Sentinels is once again going to try to do something here. They have a decent idea, but unfortunately Gen.G was just playing a lights-out game, and they could do nothing against it. Zekken tries to walk down C, but his Cypher Cam is shot, and it's just a bit too obvious. Karen Smug's top long, and they kind of just chill out for a bit. Texture's looking for the Opera. You see that jump spot here with the knives, and eventually they just decide not to hit the Opera, and they want to go A. And I mean, this is just a beautiful set execute from Gen.G. Perfect utility goes in as they're trying to hit A. This Sky utility clears everything long. They know no one's pushed up. Now they're actually scared of this. Remember, they're afraid of this because now they know Sentinels is willing to be more proactive. They're not playing scared anymore. But this lockdown forces them right where Gen.G wants them. And look at this. The double lineup from Munchkin. Orb into CT, Molly into CT, just as Tens is trying to get out. You'll see it here. Look at that. Orb, Molly. And there's a Killjoy Molly in there as well. It gets Saucy and Zelsis. And I mean, after this, the pit goes down, and there's just a Gen.G absolute masterclass to close out Haven 13-8.
Say that Haven came down to the pistol rounds. I think Gen.G were the better team there. But an entire series where you don't win pistols is almost impossible to win. Sen need to be working on these. They didn't get a good beginning to it, and Gen.G managed. And that means they've got 3 rifles for the bonus too. I mean, take a look at these shots. Gravnet comes out.
Listen, dude, I mean, come on. I know it's against an eco, but still, as a Gravnet, he's locked down in place.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to look at round 5. This is perhaps one of the strangest rounds, not just in this series, but perhaps in the entirety of Valorant that I've seen. We have Zekken being set up on this deep B line. Zeus is going to come back and trip bot mid. But other than the bot mid trip and this trip deep in tree, they're going to have nothing mid watching the whole round. Which is not a great thing, considering the fact they are also giving up A. So they're essentially giving up all of mid and all of A, except for just a couple Cypher trips. They're giving up all of that in exchange for an op line on B. Not the greatest trade, especially since their fake A pressure here with this Ascent one way gets instantly disrespected by Texture. That was their plan all along with this Omen smoke here. And perhaps a bit of discoordination because Munchkin pops his K ult a bit late as Texture's trying to entry, who gets stunned up there. But I mean, Tens does nicely here in the side anchor to get 2. And despite the fact that he gets traded and John does too, leaving it in a 3v3, not a horrible sight hold. But the retake will be kind of tough with an op. Now this is the truly strange part. See this thing? Meteor just held in his hand, this lockdown. This lockdown is going to go down, and it's going to do something that doesn't happen very often at this level. It's going to detain all 3. So if you run this forward, the lockdown ticks, and all 3 people are going to be detained in this little corner. Now, Texture tries to go hunting. Unfortunately, he just barely misses them and doesn't go far enough. And he kind of just gets mowed down, and Gen.G are going to end up losing this round. But tactically, I think they were definitely in the better position here. It was just an odd Killjoy ult that made this round lost for Gen.G because they thought they had the advantage, but it turns out they were just a bit too late. All right, we're going to take a look at round number 6 here. This is actually going to be one of the fastest rounds that Gen.G plays this entire half, and they end up losing it very almost deservedly so, because Sentinel's composition really kind of allows them to absorb these faster hits. Normally, you want to play a bit slower, figure out where the deadlock is, break the deadlock utility, and go from there. But instead, they try a fast B split. And now, arguably, this split failing has nothing to do with the comp that Gen.G is playing against, but rather just good team fighting on the side of Sentinels. You can see here, Sassy, Zekken, and Zelsis all do very well on this B hit to stuff the pressure and leave Munchkin in an unwinnable situation. This is a very good team fight, but I think Gen.G learns an important lesson from this round, which is they cannot go this fast. They need to be a bit slower, take their time. They can be a bit more methodical with how they play it out, and it'll ultimately end up doing them a lot better in this attack half. We're going to go ahead and take a look at round number 7 here. This round is going to demonstrate a couple things. One, Sentinels doesn't really know how this comp with the deadlock is supposed to be played. John QT is going to make some perhaps unapologizable decisions in this round, because he, as the deadlock and the one who kind of needs to get value from his utility, because most of it is one-time use, is going to be doing literally nothing. And it was a common theme in this entire game that John QT would just have his barrier mesh the entire round and not use it for a round. And on the other side, we're also going to see that Gen.G starts to recognize that Sentinels isn't really fighting that much for map control. In fact, as we play this forward, really the only control that Sentinels is going to have in this entire round is just the line that their operator's holding. I mean, sure, there's a camera that sees into B main, but after Zekken kind of gets cleared out here, and in fact he almost loses his life for this aggressive play, after he gets cleared out here, there's really nothing that Sentinels has this whole map. We pause right here. They don't have A info. They have no idea what's going on. Tens is just jump spotting or jiggling. It's not really clear from the minimap. And he's just jump spotting this A angle. They have this deep mid trip, but this mid trip could easily be broken at any point in the round. And this camera does have an okay B line, but is not completely reliable as opposed to like a Killjoy turret. And they have no one pushed past any of this line. And we're going to keep going here. Gen.G just continues to play it a bit slower. Lakia's shocked our lineup, as you just saw a few seconds ago, misses. And Zekken just kind of sits here and stares at a smoke while Gen.G splits A. And sure, there's a deadlock ult here, but I just want to point out this moment here where Munchkin is just standing in the open and on his own is able to spray down too. Now, even if he dies here, note Texture's positioning here. He's likely going to be able to jump up and swing and kill these players anyways. And in fact, you can see him right here throwing a one-way to try and stop the flood. But this is also another issue of the composition. They can't really flood retake because they don't have flashes. And so, as a deadlock, you kind of almost want to make the round slower, force them to play your game rather than trying to react to Gen.G's aggressive sight hits. And you can see here, even with the triple swing with knives, it still is just not enough. And sure, Zekken does well in this round to try and make this round winnable. But after Zekken gets this right click here, in the 2v2, there's just too much indecision from Sentinels. Note here, the Hunter's Fury is still active for Lakia and is the most obvious play to just, sit back main, wait for the bomb tap, and just Sova ult. And despite knowing that there's a Sova ult active, they choose to take a super, super long time for Sassy to slowly make no noise, get with Zekken, and they slowly kind of walk into the site. And by the time that they get there and even see the first player, which is Charon and Hell, the time has just run out. And the Sova ult wins them the round. Now let's take a look at round number 8. The important thing to take note of here is that Munchkin has farmed enough orbs to gather his KO ult here. And Sentinels have a decent defensive setup against it. They put the Deadlock utility on A, and the Deadlock actually starts B. But I just want to continue to highlight how little map control Sentinels has in their entire defensive halves. Because after this kind of early B-main contention here with Zekken and John kind of pushed up deep, no one's fighting for A, which, I mean, is okay if you have some established B control. But if we fast forward a little bit here, after Meteor kind of gets cleared out here, Sentinels is going to completely give up B main. If we pause at this moment, what information do Sentinels have? They have no info in A. They have no info in all of mid, aside from Zekken holding this very shallow line to watch for this deep flank. They have no info cat, except for this camera. And so they don't really know what's going on here. And in fact, they don't try at all to find out what's going on. And so it seems as if Sentinels is almost reacting to Gen.G's attack more than trying to figure out what's going on and stop them. And as we keep going here, this KO ult actually somehow tags John QT as it's pop. You can see the sound sensors right here have just been turned off. And so really a lot of the Deadlock utility is nullified in this round. And note the timing of the Flood defenders here rotating in through Heaven, Zekken and John QT. If they had a bit more information on the rest of the map, maybe Zekken and John QT here are just in time a bit more and are able to take these fights to relieve some pressure from the A players. But instead, 3 of them get sprayed down and it just becomes a save. Now this round is just a well-played round from Gen.G. They've consistently now seen that Sentinels always plays 2 people A. A is consistently the weak side, while 3 people are B with the Cypher most of the time, unless there's a KO ult setup. And so it's just a nice read, fast hit, overrun the site holders, and they use their lockdown to secure this round very, very, very quickly. It's just well played by Gen.G. Honestly, there's not much Sentinels could have done here. I think just another example of how they're completely getting outclassed in this matchup. Alright, let's move on to Gen.G's defense and Sentinels attack. We're starting a good part into this half. It's the 4th round of this half, round number 16. Sentinels win the pistol and keep a couple guns in the anti-eco, but Gen.G runs a clean retake on the bonus round to deny it from Sentinels, setting up this round number 16. The first thing I want to highlight in Gen.G's defensive setup is how much more map control that they are holding. Charon is always going to be here. You'll see him quite often in this half. He's going to be sitting in wine, holding his one way, and taking A main control. And depending on what happens, Munchkin can support him with his KO util. Now, on the other side, Meteor's turret is kind of holding this deep B line. And after a while, they decide to kind of re-clear B main together. They have Lakia and Meteor together. unfortunately, this shock dart kind of misses this alarm bot. Sentinels thought or were hoping that this alarm bot would have been destroyed, or at least there wouldn't have been one there after they shocked it. And so they try to kind of fake some pressure with this deadlock wall into CT. But unfortunately for them, I mean, it's just a bit unlucky that this alarm bot doesn't get cleared by the shock. Unfortunately, there's nothing there, and so Gen.G can kind of just stay in their setup. Part of the reason why Gen.G is able to hold so much map control is because of this Killjoy turret, but it's also because Meteor and Charon are just like fearless. I mean, look at this. Meteor just instantly takes back the space after his Killjoy turret's destroyed, and off that, Lakia recons to again deny it. And so now they've created a lot of pressure in B. The deadlock wall's about to go down, and I mean, at this point, with no A control, Sentinels are just kind of forced into this B split, and they just get, I mean, completely shredded off of this crossfire. Now, this B split, although Gen.G did play it decently well, I also want to highlight just how disconnected Sentinels is here. You see, there's 3 players. All of these 3 players in market are kind of more or less on the same page. They're all trying to flood out and, you know, take some space in the site. Zekin's going to dash. Actually, I lied. Zekin actually doesn't have his dash in this moment. But they're just going to kind of try and run out. But watch how late Zelsis is. Zelsis could easily have walked out at the same time Zekin walked out. The Cypher, watch this. Zekin is going to be out right now at 22 seconds. And it's going to take another 2 to 3 seconds for Zelsis to even come out. And if Zelsis had came out at the same time as Zekin, Meteor would have been completely cleared. Now, the other thing also that's going on is this whole time Sassy was trying to grab the bomb, which was still left down there. Perhaps part of this is just due to a miscommunication, but, I mean, I feel like these are inexcusable mistakes at this level, that Sassy is trying to pick up the bomb with a recon, no less. He has a recon to help them out, but instead, he has to go pick up the bomb because no one ever picked it up before we decided, okay, let's split. And it's almost like Zelsis and Sassy weren't ready for this to happen because Zelsis was late and Sassy was very late. So, I mean, I don't know what's going on here, but I mean, there's just another example of Sentinels were playing very poorly in this map.
Still locks it up here at Spam. Being offloaded, Texture does manage to at least get 2, but it's even out and it has handed guns over.
Yeah, that's a major win for Sentinels.
Munchkin, there's a drone in his face, it's not being watched, into the smoke! The awareness is off the charts! He doesn't go for the easy kill, but now he knows the TenZ is lurking. Not long for the world.
I think this is one of the most confident rounds that Sentinels ends up playing this whole half. In my opinion, this was their best played T-side round, where they successfully make some early pressure. They get things done much earlier in the round than they normally would. Except instead of going for a full execute after they get the impact they need by using Sassy Sobol combined with Zekin running up at Texture, getting them a first blood, they don't immediately commit off this. In fact, they make a great call to rotate to A and split A after they hear the Charon Omen ult, which at this point in the game everyone knows is in backside. And I mean, Munchkin now is just left alone on an island. Sentinels convert, deny the flood attempt, and they win a very, very needed round. Unfortunately, not enough to get them over the line in this game, but it was a good round from Sentinels. Now, if I had to pick one round on Gen.G's defensive side to illustrate just how differently and importantly how confidently they were playing it in comparison to Sentinels, it would have to be this round. Now, this round, it's definitely not one you see every day on Ascent, but Gen.G at this point in the game are playing with such supreme confidence that they are going to go for an insane mid-walk down with Textures op. And notice how passively that Sentinels are playing this round. Other than A, they don't even have a lurker here or here taking any B main control. They have no information towards mid. They literally just took A main, and they're super passive everywhere else, which allows Texture to walk all the way down. Granted, Zekin is still aware of this and he's holding it, but I mean, this is just insane from Gen.G. And the confidence that they have, especially after a round like this, where they're able to get the first blood there, and is unable to be traded considering how deep it is and how quickly Texture can back away due to the fact that there's no Sentinels players there. I mean, it's just insane. And then each individual on Gen.G is also just popping off. Munchkin gets his one, and Charon just, I mean, look at this. 1-2. Here's the Omen ult. Perfectly blinds him. And I mean, what do you even do against that? So I'll just let this last round play while I talk about some overarching themes in this entire match. Overall, Sentinels clearly showed that they are very, very unconfident. Their form has been off ever since the end of Stage 2, where they lost 2 matches in a row to G2 and then 100 Thieves. Their confidence is off. They're not playing like the Masters winning team that they are. They're refusing to take map control early on in both attack and defense. Their attack rounds are very slow and readable. They don't do enough in a super long amount of time. Most of their rounds spent on attack run down very, very late, with them having little to no map control. And at every moment, not only are they matching up against a team whose individuals are just as good as they are, if not better, they definitely didn't seem like they knew how to counter Gen.G's comp on Haven, and they didn't really seem like they knew how to play their comp on Ascent. And I mean, obviously, I don't mean to discredit Gen.G at all. They played very well today. They played insane, like the Masters winning team that they are, unlike how Sentinels played in this match. And so, although I do want to see Sentinels succeed, unfortunately, if they play against FPX with this kind of form and this amount of indecision, hesitation, lack of confidence, they are going to be absolutely smoked.